All right. Hello, everyone. It seems like I'm actually streaming to both Twitter and YouTube this time. Hopefully. Yay. Let me know in the chat. I don't know. We'll see. Today, I wanted to fix some failing tests because, long story short, I recently moved to Stripe Checkout for Shift. And I realized that in my local testing, like my manual testing, I had hard-coded a currency to euro to see the site adjust. It's supposed to be based on like geolocation, of course, but I hard-coded it in one of my helpers to say euro, and I pushed everything live. And I ignored, here's the real problem, I ignored the failing tests in the CI, which would have alerted me to the issue. But because I was working kind of fast and loose and I wanted to get it out, I missed it. So what I thought, in kind of honor of last time, day in the life of development, where things break and things go wrong and they don't go the way you think, I figured I'd fix some of these failing tests. Because again, look at this. I mean, all sorts of red, like all the way down the line here, that I was just kind of ignoring, thinking, oh, that's related to this other thing. And I never actually went and looked at it. And I would have seen, oh, USD is not equal to, EUR, right? US dollars is not euro. So let's get in here and fix some of these. I need to do it anyway. Figured I'd make it a stream. Again, might not be the sexiest content, but these are things you have to do. So I thought I'd kind of like go through my CI, how I go in here, again, how I kind of go through this like frustrating situation, right? Where your build's failing and you're thinking, oh, it's all good, and I'm just going to ignore it. So two things. One, let's fix the actual tests that are broken. And then two, let's make sure I have a more explicit test to make sure that CI would never pass if I had hard-coded some kind of other currency into the helper that exists. So let's get in here. So first thing I do, basically, anytime you have a failing test suite, it can be pretty nasty, right? I mean, look at all this. It's pretty daunting. But if we go down to the bottom, first of all, I like to get a sense of like, what is actually failing? Like how much actually failed, right? And in this case, I just have one failure. Like, that's not so bad. Okay, so that's a little bit reassuring. In fairness though, if I see failures in here and they're like, if this said like 55 failures, right? I would probably scroll up and realize that all of them are like the same issue, right? I probably have some bad seeder data, or I messed up a migration, something very widespread and sweeping, like a broad error that touches the whole application, like a very foundational like configuration change that would probably fix that, right? Because hopefully my CI is never getting so bad, my test suite's never getting so bad that I just have 55 failures that I've ignored, right? So I like to check the failure count first. So just one, that's manageable. Let's fix this one, get it back to green, and then let's add the test kind of to the point here of like where I was doing the wrong currency, right? Because I had hard-coded a value. So the next thing I do, okay, I got a failure. Now I need to kind of wade through all this and figure out two main things, which are normally at the bottom. This is here. So the actual error, you must provide price or price data. Now I know what that means. I'll explain it here in a second. But more importantly, I need to see which test is actually failing. So this gives me the test that's actually failing. Here it is. And it actually also gives me the line number. So we can go directly to the assertion in the test that's failing. Now I'm going to copy this. What I like to do is copy this. Go over here, vendor bin, PHPUnit, run it. I want to see it fail locally. Ideally, this fails locally, and then I can hone in on that failure, and we'll go from there. It seems like I have a lot more failures locally because, again, I probably don't have the same environment. Yeah, I've got some permissions issues and so forth, probably where I ran this underneath a different web root. So let's just clear all that out real quick. Let's find anything in storage framework that is a file and delete it. And let's plug in my password. That was not correct. There we go. Okay, let's try to run that test suite again. I think when I first installed Herd or something or whatever I was running on here, like I did it as root and then my file permissions got messed up. Okay, so everything's passing locally. That's interesting. Everything's passing locally, so that's interesting. So now again, I want to go see what actual, why would this not be passing in CI? That to me would lead me to believe there's like an environmental configuration issue. So let's just see the test setup here. Line 601, that's the next piece I want. So let's go to 601. Assert redirect. It's asserting store saves an order and redirects to checkout. Okay. So that seems like, again, that seems like it's working locally. So what that leads me to believe now is go back to the error message. Now, this error message is actually coming from Stripe. And if I were to kind of scroll through the stack trace here, I would prove that like Stripe client, if I looked deep enough in that stack trace, I would see that this is an API issue coming back. What this means is that the price that I'm sending across to Stripe checkout isn't in their system. So let's see what I'm actually attempting to check out with here. So supposedly, store saves an order and redirects to checkout. Okay, so I've got a user. I make a connection for that user. I make a random shift. Now this gets a paid shift. All right. Now what is this like a... So what this leads me to believe is that one of the shifts inside of here, this is the worst kind of test failure. This is like a spurious test failure, meaning like there's a certain piece of random data shift that's causing this error, which means that sometimes the CI and the build passes and sometimes it fails. Let's see if we can find it. My guess is that if we hone in on this test and I kept running it, eventually we would find the shift that isn't set up in Stripe with the right price. So let's do that just for fun. So let's go back to 601. And what I want to do is let's dump product SKU. So again, kind of knowing the code base, I can make this leap here, but basically I'm just gonna dump out the SKU. The fact that I'm doing random data here and it's passing locally but not in CI leads me to believe that one of these shifts is not set up the way I think. So let's filter that. Okay, so this is the Laravel, there's 8.0. Let's just run this a few times. I'll run it like 10 times and we'll see. We'll see if one of them craps out. They're all good here. There we go. There it is. See? There it is. All right. That was like the 10th time too. I was about to give up. DU. Dependency. Okay, that's the dependency updater. I discontinued the dependency updater. It's available to subscribers through the API, but it's not actually a shift you can purchase anymore. There it is. Okay. So in the random shift, we need to kind of exclude that. We need to exclude that. Okay, so let's break this out and let's say SKU equals that. And then let's array diff the config with du. It seems like all other ones are fine. The du, the dependency updater, again, it's not a listed shift in the catalog. It's kind of it's a quote unquote private shift for subscribers. So let's see if we can run this several times and get it to go. Make sure we don't get the du in there anywhere. Oh, there we go. There's another one, CF. So see, that's why I wanted to do the array diff. I figured there might have been another one. The CF is the code formatter. Again, subscribers can run this as a one-off for whatever reason. I don't know why you wouldn't format your code locally, but again, just trying to cover all bases for subscribers. Okay, so let's keep running this. I think we should be in the clear now. I could go look at all those SKUs and see, but I don't really want to open up my config files in the chance that I'm gonna leak. Like the last 3 streams I've been like leaking I've been leaking information. Fortunately, I could rotate all the keys and so forth, but I'm not going to open the config file. Okay, we've run this a lot now. I think that's going to solve it. Okay, so the next thing I want... did I commit all those? Seriously? Oh! When I deleted all files, I deleted the gitignore files as well. I'm going to have to be careful when I commit that. I should have done name star.php. I should have only deleted PHP extension files. Anyway, fix failing tests. Okay, let's do a git add -p here and only get the stuff we want. So yeah, there we go. We definitely, okay, so let's do this. Let's quit that. Git checkout storage framework. All right, now we should just have this test. So let's look at what we actually fixed here. Git add -p. So we don't want to commit the dump. We do want to commit this where we pull out certain SKUs. Now again, off stream, I'll open that file and make sure there's not any other ones because again, it's all random, so we may or may not have done that right. And then I know that that's not formatted correct. We need a line break before the return, so let's let Pint fix all that for us so that way we don't introduce more failing tests. So hopefully we'll push this up. We'll see that the PHPUnit test suite is green, as well as hopefully lint. And then I'd like to add, I'm going to go ahead and add a test for, I'm going to optimistically start adding a test for that currency helper. Okay, so no to that, yes to the line break. Git commit -m, remove private shifts. Or exclude is not, remove is not the right word. Let's say exclude. When I'm fixing failing tests, I don't like to say something like whip. I want to be, even though I'll probably squash merge this, I want to be explicit because clearly there was a logic error on my part that introduced this quote unquote bug, right? So I want to be very clear because my fix could be wrong. And if I need to go back and revert this or I push this to production and find out that I introduced yet another bug, you know, a week from now, I want to know my thought process. I want a human, like at least description of what I meant to do here, which was exclude private shifts, right? Especially on a team where you have multiple people. Like whip doesn't mean shit. Like that's fine if you're working on something completely greenfield and new and you're doing a bunch of commits. I get it. It's nice and easy and I do it sometimes. But again, when I'm fixing a bug, I want to be very explicit and human as to why I did this change. I think that's important. I know whip's all hip and cool and everything, but anyway, let's nav this out. Let's push this up. Git push -u origin head. All right. Okay, let's open up a new pull request for this so we can kick off the CI. I'll just see it, and again, I'll call this fix failing tests. All the more reason that I want that nice little commit message here. Okay, let's let this run. I expect Dusk to fail. We'll see if I get there in the stream. But before we go that far, I want to open up, I think there's like a helpers test. Yes, there is. And let's go to the bottom of this before the data providers. Here we go. Let's copy a test. And I want to say currency returns from session. All right. And then let's kind of to-do this for now. And let's open up my helpers file. And if we go down to currency, yeah, here we go. So currency, okay. So here's what was going on. To test, right before I pushed this to production, I threw in return euro here to like, you know, make sure everything was looking good for the various currencies based on whatever your local currency was. And in the effort, as we can see from the squigglies, I did not like pull that across, right? So I wasn't actually pulling from your session data whether or not you were euro. Now, fortunately, this was only live over the weekend, and there's not a lot of, you know, shift users over the weekend. And the people that hit it first thing Monday morning were Europeans. So for the most part, this was okay. No one was charged incorrectly. But the prices on the site would have been incorrect. So again, the display currency is based on your local currency, which is set through middleware. but I was never getting here. It was only ever saying euro, and I just never caught it because all the lower tests that actually connected to Stripe allowed Stripe to check your currency, right? But I need to make sure that the site and what you're going to see on Stripe match up. So again, the charges were okay because Stripe was handling that, but the visual display and potentially new subscriptions where the currency is set on the subscription would have been using this helper. So I want to backfill some tests here explicitly on the helper because all the other tests are passing. I need to write some new tests to say this little helper function should always be pulling from the session or defaulting to USD. Okay, so let me get rid of that line, which used to be in there. This is the correct code. It's in production now, but I want to backfill a test. So quite simply, what we can do here is we can just inject, excuse me, I forgot my water upstairs. What we can do here is basically just inject in the session. Is this a Laravel test? Yeah, it is. Okay. I was just making sure this didn't directly extend PHPUnit's test case. So I have access to all of Laravel runtime, application. So we can just say session, what was that? Local currency, I think it said. We'll set the local currency to euro, and effectively, when we call, we would say this, assert same, euro. Now we should make this, whoops, not that. Thanks, helper. Little too contrived there. There we go. Okay, so when we call currency, we should now expect this to be euro, and we would expect this to, of course, pass. So let's go back. Let's give us some breathing room here. Vendor bin PHPUnit. That. Let's filter just this. Okay, so euros USD, so maybe it's local underscore currency? No, local currency. Oh, that pulls it. Sorry, we need to put it. I think, I always get confused. I think you pass it an array syntax here. I think that's the correct syntax. Yeah, there you go. Now that's always a little weird to me. I think, let's just be explicit. Let's say session put. The overloading of the helpers while handy is like, unless you use them a lot, like I always forget all the fancy overloading you can do with the arguments. So let's just be explicit. Session put, let's make sure this still passes. Okay, and then now let's get a little test variance in here. Let's get a little mutation in here, I suppose. So it's really test variance, it's not mutation. So we could say this faker currency code. Yeah, there we go. What is it? Does this return an uppercase? Does it say? I don't know what that returns. Just in case, let's do this. Let's say currency equals that, and let's just to be super sure, let's just say str to upper, just to normalize stuff. It really shouldn't matter because whatever we put in there is what we're going to get back. But just for clarity, let's do this. So now we're going to get a lot of variance, right? So if we dumped currency here, yeah, we've got all sorts of random currencies now. I don't even know what some of these are. Yeah, so random currencies. I think that's actually like a Cayman Island dollar. I remember seeing that when I was looking all these up. Okay, and then what we also need to do is make sure that the default now is USD. So currency returns USD default. All right, so let's not set anything. And here we would expect it to be USD. So we verify that it basically takes whatever's in the session. Again, we didn't have to str to upper it just for like being super explicit. I mean, we could have put a random number in there and demonstrated that that's what it returned. But let's be a little bit true to life. Let's take off this part and we should get both tests now. So now, if I were to, return Great British Pound or something, is it GBP? I think, yeah. So if I were to return the pound or something here, these tests would begin to fail, right? I would get a much more explicit, like, yo, you said it was supposed to be USD, but I got GBP. So, or again, to the original point, euro. So now we would always have, I would never be able to hard code this again, even if I were testing. My test would fail. Hopefully I would pay a little more attention to the CI. So 2 little tests just to make sure the site's not displaying. Again, it's a tiny 1-line helper, but it really messed up the display on the site. And if you weren't familiar with Shift or an existing user and kind of went through the checkout flow, if you were a brand new user and you saw that stuff was in euro and you pay USD, you might have been like, oh, that's weird, and bailed. So I could have lost a customer on this 1-line, mistake. So seems simple, but all right, let's go check the actions. We should see 2 greens here. Nope. Where are we? Oh, here we are, fix failing test. We should see 2 greens. We're not. Okay, so something's still failing in tests. What's still failing here? Oh, see, we got 26 failures now. What did I break now? Run Docker controller middleware. Okay, so to the point earlier, oh, I know what happened. This was not our change. This was actually a webhook. Yeah. That's not right. Okay, I can fix that. Hold on a second. I've got some webhooks that run and they're defaulting to Laravel 12 and they shouldn't be. I need to upgrade to Laravel 12. That's definitely a future stream. All the more reason I want to get this test suite like fully green. So let's go ahead and add this. Let's say backfill tests for currency helper. There you go. All right, and then let's get pull-r and let's do a get logo. Let's revert this. That's an incorrect change. Get revert that. Yep, cool. Okay, get push. Get push. Yep, there it goes. Okay. So this was actually an example. This was actually an example of those, like I talked about on the stream, completely unplanned. But if we go back and look at the test failures here, I went from 1 test failing to 26, right? So again, that was kind of an indication that like, whoa, something widespread got messed up here. And again, it was because the callback that attempted to bump my base controller up to the Laravel 12 version. This is still running Laravel 11. So again, that was kind of the trigger that, okay, let's look at these. And they were all like, oh, middleware method not defined. Well, it removed it off the base controller. So, okay. So now, hopefully in 2 minutes, we should be, I should see that these 2 are green. I should see that these 2 are green. Now, I'm not very optimistic I'm going to be able to fix all of the Dusk tests on stream, but we will at least take a look at them, if nothing else, to feel the pain that it is to maintain Dusk tests. I would get rid of them. There's not that many. The reason I keep them around is again, Shift has some pretty heavy integration with other services. For example, GitHub, right? Bitbucket, GitLab. But then in this case, also Stripe. So because of those integrations, I want to make sure beyond just kind of a testing my application, I really want to do kind of an end-to-end test. And there are alternatives to them now, but again, Shift is a very, very old code base. I started it on Laravel 5.1. I think Dusk was introduced around 5.5 or 5.6, and its predecessor were browser kit tests. So anyway, long story short is I keep these Dusk tests around. I think there's better alternatives now, but I keep these Dusk tests around because they really check those full kind of flows. They check that, okay, I start here, I click this shift, I click pay, I put in a credit card number, and I'm on Stripe checkout. I can test all the redirects at a code level, but it's really nice to be able to test in browser that I'm seeing what I expect to see and have it actually navigate to Stripe checkout. So that's what's all failing here. We'll go take a look at these. I'm not going to let them finish running because they do take a little bit long, but I'd love to get these green. Again, I won't get them all green on the live stream, but let's at least go take a look at the failure and one of them. So exactly what we wanted. Lint and tests are now passing, and we backfilled what we needed to. Cool. All right, so what's left to do here? What's left to do here? Let's go look at Dusk failures. I'm not gonna look at this one because it's taken forever. Let's just go back to this one and see, again, same process. Let's see how many failed, probably a lot. Let's see if there's an opportunity to kind of look through them. So 16 failed, some passed, but a majority are failing. Let's try to take a look at like 1 or 2 of these. Now again, what I would expect is a lot of these probably now can't find where they plug in the card. That's what I would expect, because everyone should be going to Stripe checkout now. So they're not waiting for Stripe's card element, the iframe, to show up on the site anymore. They should be trying to redirect. So if we scroll through a lot of these, card element. So fortunately, these are pretty widespread. Card element. So let's fix one of these, because as we can see here, fixing one of these is gonna basically allow me to fix, what are we up to now? 9 or so. Yeah, so now we get up here to this failure. This might be a little bit different. So it seems like 15 out of the 16 failures relate to card element not displaying. So I think if we can fix one, it's very easy for me to copy and paste that fix to all other tests. So let's just take a look at this. Let's just start with the subscription test. Why not? It's all the same, right? So let's close this down. Let's go look at that subscription test and make sure that we get the browser version. And let's see what's going on here. Okay, so shift plans data provider. Okay, so this probably just basically loops over all of the different subscriptions types and makes sure that the flow works as expected. Okay, so we're going to log in as a basic user. We're going to visit Shifty Plans. We're going to click on Subscriptions Create. That should wait for the actual creation page. Again, we shouldn't see card element. So really, this should change to assert missing card element. We no longer see the card element. We should see your card will be charged, I think. And then what needs to probably happen is we need to click, or is there press? I always forget. Is click and press the same thing? What's the difference between click and press? Let's find out. Click. What does press do? Yeah, I just go, okay. Okay. So it maybe takes a different selector, right? One's a selector and one's the name of a button. Or I guess the title of a button. Okay, so then we need to press, and then we would like wait, or we would like assert location. Can you do that? Assert redirect? What is it? I always forget. Assert, what is this? How would you assert that you're on a certain page? Is it like page is or something? Path is, there we go. Path begins with. Yeah, okay. So what should happen is this should begin with http checkout.stripe.com or something like that. So let's go figure out what the button name is now. I think it's like continue to checkout or something like that. Let's find out. Okay, so on subscriptions create, we have a button, here we go, and the button is checkout. Okay, so we should press. So we're logging in as a basic user. We're going to the Shifty Plans page. We're choosing one of the subscriptions. This will loop over all of them through the data provider. Then we're going to make sure that the old card element is gone. Now, I wouldn't typically write this, but because I recently changed away from having the page have that, I want to leave this line. 6 or 7 months from now, I'll probably delete that line. But for now, I want to make sure that you're not somehow seeing the old card element, right? That's the expected change. So this is a bit of legacy, but since that's what's failing now, I want to make sure that you don't see it anymore. We do see this card will be charged, billing. I probably need to update that billing information, but again, I can do that off stream. We're going to press checkout, and then we should now assert that we get redirected to Stripe. And then I would probably like to go so far, ensure pricing on page matches expected. I could go so far as to go down that line, right? And I probably will. But let's just see if this fixes the issue. So let's go back. The thing where I'm changing the currency and backfilling tests and how I excluded the private stuff, again, I like to have that kind of human context with the commit. Okay, so this should be running now. Let's see if we get down to 15. If we don't get down to 15, we'll look at the screenshots and see, well, why did we not? So this is going to take a second to run. Yeah, this is going to take, I think we saw like it was 3 minutes. While we're waiting on that, let's go to laravel.com and let's go to Dusk. And let's go down to their assertions. Interacting with elements, pressing buttons. Yeah, okay, cool. So we got that part right. Press and wait for, what is this? Press button and wait a maximum for it to be enabled. Okay. Interacting with elements. Let's make sure. How can you navigation? I'm trying to just make sure that assertion that I'm doing is right. Here we go. What did we say like assert path is? Maybe it's not path, maybe it's URL. Assert route is. Here we go. Assert URL is. Assert that the current URL without the query string matches the given string. I think path might just be path. Is there like a assert URL starts with, or like assert frag? See, they have all these helpful ones underneath, but they kind of don't have like a. I'm assuming assert URL is probably takes a wildcard, would be my assumption. But maybe not. I'm hearing stuff in the chat. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. Let's see here. Assert URL is. What does this do? Yeah, okay, there you go. It does allow wildcards. It allows wildcards. So str replace that with that. Preg quotum. And then they make a regular expression. Okay. So I think we probably want to do something like that. Is probably what we want. So this is going to fail, but hopefully it fails because of the path, not the checkout and pressing. We can still look at the screenshot. Let's see what the chat says. Hey Mateus, hey JT, how's it going? Let's see if we can nail this real quick. This is still running. Where are you? We're installing. Okay, cool. The tests are running. So yeah, you can see here kind of what I mentioned before, like we're doing a checkout test. We're doing, we're making sure that you're able to log in with Git, all the various data sets to the service redirection and so forth. So that's kind of why I kept the Dusk test, because it is that integration. I use a very heavy Laravel test suite to test the application. And I do a lot of touch point testing there to make sure, okay, you got redirected to Stripe and this and that and the other. And I can assert that I passed Stripe's API or GitHub's API or whatever, the right data. But again, because this is like not only a large project, but also my livelihood. This is my source of income. I like to have a couple additional dust tests. There's not many, as we see. There was about 20, right? But these 20 are like very end-to-end, and they're worth it, even though I gripe about Dusk. They're worth it to make sure, like, they help me sleep at night, right? As Jess Archer would say, like, they're the tests that help me sleep at night. I can make sure that, you know, you're able to check out with a card, right? You're able to check out with a saved card. You're able to you're able to run a free shift, right? So page shift flow, using a saved card, entering a different card, you know, free flow. So there's different things that can be done here. Now the page shift flow, again, is broken because of the card element, because now, as someone who's not using a saved card, you get redirected to Stripe checkout as a more or less new user. So anyway, let's give this just another minute to see these other ones run. Yeah, they unfortunately run super, super slow because they basically time out waiting on that element, that card element. So that's why these are running so slow. I should probably set a restriction to like 10 seconds and not let the browser actually time out. Let's see if there's a way to do that. I know there's a way to do that per test, but I wonder if there's a way to do that. I was hoping there was a way to do that like by default. By default, maximum 5 seconds. That's not entirely true. Yeah, the default doesn't seem to be 5 if that thing waited for 30. That's strange. Wait for selector. Oh, I wonder if the other stuff's just like, what's wait? And there's wait on here a lot. I was wondering if there's a way to like have it time out automatically. All of these claim that they default for 5 seconds, but why would that run for 30 if it only should wait for 5? That's interesting to me. Let's refresh this. It seems like it's stuck. Nope, it's running. Oh, Dusk. Let's go see if previous Dusk. I want to see if a previous Dusk test ran for 30 seconds. 15. 6, 9. The rest of these seem reasonable. I'm curious why this one took 15 seconds. Or 30 in my other case. It's crazy. All right, unfortunately I chose subscription tests, which is the lowest one down here, but this should be running faster. Let's give this one more second. No, I feel like it's stuck. That's the other thing with dust tests is like sometimes the underlying Selenium driver, like, because if you have a lot of failures, the underlying Selenium driver, like, it just hangs or gets stuck. Huh. We'll give it 30 more seconds, and I think we get the idea. It's no fun for me or anybody to watch CI just spin its wheels. I mean, you really want CI to be running fast. That's why, like, that 30 seconds is interesting to me. That's unacceptable. With only 20 tests, if all of them ran within 10 seconds, then this should run like in 3 minutes, right? You know, just a little over 3 minutes. And that's not terrible for CI. And dust tests in general. But yeah, we're clearly stuck on something here. The jump from this to the next test suite should not be taking this long unless I broke something. So I think I'll end the stream here. We know what we need to do, right? These are on the right path. We shouldn't see card element anymore. That was a majority of my dust test failure. I'm going to fix these. I'm going to get the test suite green. And when it's green, then the next stream, I'll upgrade to Laravel 12 because all of the packages that the reason I didn't upgrade to Laravel 12 is A, I'm busy upgrading everyone else's applications. when a new version is released. So I kind of just again, it's also the busiest time of year for Shift, so I don't want to make any changes to the live site. So for those reasons, I normally wait, a month or two. But also, just like the rest of the world, the packages that I use for Shift aren't always immediately compatible. So again, I wait to make sure that those are fully compatible. In this case, I think Torchlight and something else was just a little bit behind. But again, there are packages that don't get updated for several months. So 3 months in on a release is not that bad. So we'll see that in the next stream. Let's get Dusk one more. Nope, see, it's stuck. Something's going on here. It's stuck. I'm gonna kill this and repush, and we'll let Dusk try again. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining live. Hopefully you got something out of watching me get the test suite back to passing. See you all next week.